Hello to all you guys out there in YouTube land. Yes, it's me, DR, stuck in traffic. So I know some people think about driving videos, but luckily I'm going very, very slowly. So recently someone asked me about my opinions about nature and nurture. I think it kind of was all sparked by, I say recent, relatively recent Google email. Now, I'm presuming that most people are aware of it. But in summary, and I'm probably going to get this totally wrong, there was a Google email written by an engineer who's since been fired from Google, and he said that he was pointing out that he felt that there were biological differences between the tendencies of male and female, and thus that was one of the potential reasons why women weren't going into the world of Google and technical world. Now, someone said, you know, due to what you do, what do you think? Now, I'm going to share something, maybe this is controversial, it's just opinion, there's no scientific research in all of this, but I'm going to share what my opinion of the nature and nurture argument is. I think that all of us, all of our human beings, if you were gonna, you know, divide up our potential into a lovely pie chart of 100%, have the potential and preference in various different areas. We have a preference towards those areas. So, you know, I use this example when I talk about preferences, and I ask everyone to just pick up a pen and write down their name. Now, what normally happens with that is they pick up their pen and they write down their name using the most dominant hand they've got. And then I say, actually, okay, that's perfect. You know, pick up the pen with the other hand and write your name. And what essentially you're trying to do with that is highlight that preferences are preferences. It's not the ability, it's not capability, it's just we have predispositions to potentially go into various different areas. There's things we like, there's things that we're good at. So for example, you know, I think everyone has a capacity to be very good, and I think there was an experiment that kind of tested this very subject of nature and nurture, where a psychologist got training, you know, got a singing coach, and went from being quite average to being quite good and really good at singing. So this kind of illustrates my point, that I think with training, with you know, mentoring, we can accomplish amazing things. But as human beings, we have predispositions towards certain areas. Now, whether or not these are driven down gender lines is another question altogether, and I'm not gonna go down that route on this video, but it's really just my opinion about nature and nurture. I've always just thought we have predispositions. We're, for physiological, biological makeups, predisposes for various different areas. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to go down the area. So for example, I could have a predisposition to be, I don't know, with my awareness of spatial awareness, my hand-eye coordination, my feet coordination, whatever, to be a great sports star, a great footballer. But due to my upbringing, I could actually hate sport. And I think there's lots of people I talk to who I think, I used to go to school with someone who was an amazing physical wasn't built, but was a really fast runner, amazing sprinter, brilliant, I thought would be brilliant at sport, but actually turned out to not like sport. So even though he was predisposed to be a great sprinter, had all the attributes you wanted from a great sprinter in terms of the physical makeup, that's not what he liked, it's not what he enjoyed, so therefore didn't go down that route. And I think that to me sums up nature and nurture. Now, one of the things that I think is fascinating is when you delve a bit deeper in terms of nature and nurture, is that we have a predisposition to label, you know, girls like pink, boys like blue, and I think that kind of gets used a lot. I know that beforehand, obviously, the colours were the other way around. Girls were given blue, and boys especially were given red, and it was really a marketing ploy that kind of converted us as individuals into these colours. So, you know, previously, I think the marketing, people were very much about unisex clothes, passing clothes down. In order to sell more clothes, these kind of gender stereotypes were generated, and what it enabled people to do was say, if you had two kids, a girl and a boy, you couldn't pass your clothes down, therefore you had to buy more clothes. And not a lot of people know that. But something that's quite fascinating for me, and I've just kind of been understanding it, is how our reactions to kids are different. So there was the infamous Baby X, that was, you know, the social experiment where the parents were told they would understand the gender of their kids, but whenever someone asked, they were meant to refer to the kid with no gender, and how much frustration that created in other people. And actually, strange enough, I kind of sort of started to see that in myself. If I saw a kid and I went up, I'd go, how old is she or he? I get quite, not anxious, but stressed out in terms of, you know, what sex that kid is. And for me, that nature and nurture argument kind of rings through in all of that pressure. I always did think that, in my opinion, nurture demonstrated a greater part of manipulating, maybe that's a harsh word, but or greater part in the movement of where someone were predisposed to be. I always did think that, but then I never really looked at some of the ways that society in general, and me included, had stereotypes and biases that altered the way I looked at kids. So, for example, when people see a baby girl in a crib or out about, people are more disposed to say things like, "Oh, what a lovely girl! Oh, she's so pretty." Whereas when they see a boy in a crib or whatever, or being carried, they're more likely to say, "Oh, he's so handsome, so strong," and use those type of descriptive words. And actually, if you think about consistency and delivery of message in terms of advertising, you know, listen to it 13 times, it becomes someone's reality, it becomes ingrained, whether or not someone likes it or not. Those types of things actually become ingrained in people's mindsets, and whether or not directly or indirectly, you know, and I'm not saying anyone's intentionally doing this, but actually that has a huge role to play in shaping someone's perception and someone's perception of self. So for me, I think nature and nurture is quite an interesting study, but I think people, when they ask that question, don't necessarily understand the full extent of the power of the nurture argument, because most people think that they can be qualitative unbiased, but actually we can have unconscious unbiased that kind of push that. So it's fascinating to me when someone talks about nature and nurture. And this is something that just came up recently in discussions. I thought, let me stick this on a video and see what you guys think. I mean, in the nature and nurture argument, do you have a tendency to agree with my opinion? And it is an opinion, I'm not citing any sources. Or do you have an opinion to have an opinion of your own? Anyway, this is DR saying peace out, guys. Have a safe journey wherever you're heading. I'm actually starting to move quite quickly now, so I'm going to end this video in a spirit of safety. Anyway, and I'll speak to you later. Have a safe journey wherever you're heading. Bye!